So today we're going to be planting radishes from seed.
Hi, I'm Logan Ritzy. I'm a 4-year teacher with the Independence Academy.
These seeds are going to be radishes by the time that they grow up.
The Independence Academy is a program that helps 18 to 21-year-olds, all on IEPs, learn life skills and job skills. I went to school my first round to be in human services. Through that, I did a practicum time at Hawthorne Elementary, and I worked one-on-one with students, and that's where I really fell in love with working with students with special needs.
So you guys are doing a very, very important job. Hiba, can I have your hand?
I like anything that I can feel and tell what it is. Jobs, hands-on work, blind people can do. I'm Hiba. And I read Braille. I like advocating for myself.
This is what it's going to go into.
Hiba wants to learn about everything, and so she wants to get her hands on it. She wants to know how it's going to work. She's very curious. She has a very good sense of humor, and she's going to keep you laughing the whole time that you're working with her.
You have a really good laugh, by the way.
Oh, okay. Really? Do I do?
Yes, you do.
Some people don't like my laugh. That's funny.
Okay, so here are these. I'm going to put a couple
We call this part of our day the freight farm. The first time I heard about it, I had no idea what to think. They want to put this trailer in our parking lot, and they want you to plant plants and harvest them, and I was like, oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Madeline Innenkamp. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm 20 years old.
Madeline is a sweetheart. She is our social butterfly. She's going to make friends with anybody.
Hi, my name is Kennedy, and I love watching for the fire engine that I live near. Who did this one, though?
She's going to be the one that's going to step up and do jobs that she knows needs to be done within the program.
You guys want to do lettuce?
Sure.
This is a hydroponics freight farm. It's a shipping container, like a train bin. If we have all 4 of these walls filled up with crops, then we'll have 2 acres worth of produce.
So a lot of it is working on our fine motor skills, but also learning how to be able to grow their own food if they would want to do that at home. I love to watch when the kids get something or they see that they can do something within the community, and that light bulb just turns on and see that they're starting to have that little bit of confidence in themselves.
So feel this foam? We put the plug, here's a plug, in the wall. Feel that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's extremely cool.
It is really cool.
This meeting of the Lincoln Public Schools Board of Education for November 9th, 2021 is called to order. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Byer.
Here.
Mr. Boswell.
Present.
Mrs. Danick.
Here.
Mrs. Duncan.
Here.
Mr. Mayhew.
Present.
Ms. Mumgard.
Here.
Dr. Rauner.
Here.
The Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted and available at the main entrance of the room. We have minutes from our board work session and meeting on October 26th for approval, as well as a board special meeting for November 2nd for approval. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing none, the minutes stand approved as published. Tonight, for special reports, presentations, and celebrations of success, 6.1, the JROTC, Dr. Larson.
Thank you, Mrs. Duncan. Tonight, we want to provide you an update on the district's Air Force Junior ROTC Focus Program at Northeast High School. As a reminder, the program is a leadership and character building program and not a military recruitment program. The academic curriculum emphasizes global and cultural studies, the development of flight, applied flight sciences, military aerospace programs, and space exploration. With us tonight is Senior Master Sergeant Michael Miller and 3 of our cadets. They will provide you a unit mission brief.
So good evening, my name is Sergeant Miller. I was hired this summer by Principal Appleby. Sergeant Woodruff was working by himself for almost 2.5 years. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. I retired this last summer after 20 years on active duty as a helicopter door gunner. And I can honestly say that the last few months as a junior ROTC instructor have been more rewarding than saving lives in combat for the last 20 years. I've truly enjoyed it. So our program's a leadership program, so I'm going to get out of the way and let our leaders lead. Josh?
Good evening. I am Joshua Hoff, and I'm the Air Group Commander of the Lincoln Northeast Junior ROTC. And so that's me, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Hunter Sands. I'm the Deputy Air Group Commander. I also happen to be a Southwest Senior. Yes, I know it's a long drive.
My name is Malaysia Crawford. I am Command Chief of ROTC. I'm glad to be here.
And I will let you guys know, you can take your mask off if you want to speak. It might be easier. I should have told you that in the beginning, sorry.
Okay. I guess sometimes I mumble, so I'll take that off for now. But to start off, our program hovers around 65 cadets, and so cadets obviously come from multiple schools. Like Hunter here is from Southwest, so they a lot of times have to drive, but we're looking forward to getting more cadets because COVID kind of lowered our numbers and schedules always have conflictions. So we also have a lettering program because we are considered a focus program. So you can letter in JROTC, and it just takes involvement with the program in community service and helping others. So that's how our program is situated cadet-wise. And Hunter.
Hello, to reintroduce myself, my name is Hunter Sands, and to start us off, we have 6 goals that us top 3 and the rest of our top 7 leadership group has decided at the beginning of this school year. This is completely, as we emphasized before, a cadet-run organization. Our instructors basically just signed it off, so they had nothing to do with deciding these. But to start us off, we have cadet impact goals. So we'd like to have at least 75% of all cadets earn at least 15 hours of community service each semester. So over the course of an entire school year, they'll have should have about 30 hours. We have many service opportunities to where they can earn these hours and sign up. Additionally, we have 50%, we'd like to have 50% of all our cadets earn at least an A or a B while in the program. So it is a class, and because it is a class, we have a little bit of an incentive, whereas they earn an A in the class and a B in everything else, they can even earn an academic ribbon. So that can also help boost studying and paying attention. To back off that, as we said before, we have 6 LPS high schools that, we have cadets in. So we'd like to have at least 2 color guards at home games for all. So of course that would even mean driving all the way down to me and having 2 there. We'd also like to have assemblies and after school events at our 3 feeder middle schools like Mickle, Color, and Dawes. We'd also like to participate in at least 1 community service with a local veterans organization each semester. We are based off the military, so we do very much appreciate that. We'd also like to have 4 recurring community service events that take place throughout the school year, like we'll have motocross, and which we will discuss even later. Thank you.
So to reintroduce myself, my name is Mal Crawford. So I'm going to talk about the flight competition. So at the end of the semester, during the semester, we have our cadets work as a unit to try and win a outstanding flight ribbon at the end of the semester. How you get this is 6 criteria. That includes bringing your water for PT, if you turned in all your homework, did all your community service, and at the end of the semester, we have a 30 sequence. Now, all through the semester, our flight commanders are leading the sequence, and then they get tested, not really tested, but scored on it, and that also gets added into the final score. And that's kind of what our flight competition is. And then health and wellness. Every semester, we have a PT test. Now, during the semester, we have every flight, flights are periods. We have Echo, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. Those are all periods, but they work as a unit to keep each other accountable. Now, our flight commanders, flight squadron, flight guides, those are the leaders of the classroom. They lead PT every Friday. That includes bringing your water, because it's just not doing exercise. You also have to take care of yourself. So that's, I think 10% or 15% of your grade is or points is bringing water. And at the end of the semester, we have a test. Now that's more individual. You get a cord, the best female and male performer, they both get a cord if they perform well. Would you guys like to add anything?
I don't think I need to add anything. Fine.
Okay.
All right. So now I'm going to talk about our CIAs, and before I actually talk about them, I'd like to define that. So a curriculum in action is basically a field trip that has something tied in with the Air Force or the military. So as you see, we go to the SAC Museum, the World War I Museum in Kansas, and some other places. But due to COVID and aforementioned, Senior Miller said, Sergeant Woodruff, he was our only instructor for about the last 2 years, so he wasn't able to take us on many of these CIAs. But now that we have Senior Miller back, well, here, that we'll be able to go to more field trips and interact with the military more. And these trips, we actually have cadets a lot of the time take responsibility and lead, and that gives them the ability to show their leadership, use teamwork, and interact with military members in these areas, which helps them explore, is the military a good option for me? And it also helps them learn life skills like leadership and teamwork. No.
So our unit is divided into 2 squadrons. We have our operations squadron. Now those are the leaders of the flights that I talked about earlier. And we have our mission squadron. Now these are the cadets who build the foundation of our program. They work really hard to give us activities, community service, like our community service. Now our Special Olympics, we volunteer. They really get us out into the Lincoln community and build our leadership and our leaders. And then we have special projects. Now those consist of the cadets who organize things like the military ball, which I hope to see you guys at. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's December 3rd. And then we have awards night. Now that's in April. Now our awards night really sheds light on our leaders, and we kind of give awards and ribbons to make sure our cadets know that we saw their growth and we really appreciate them. And then we have logistics. Now logistics are 3 cadets, 3 high schoolers who get handed the keys to almost $500,000 worth of equipment and uniforms. Now that's a lot of money and a lot of uniforms to keep hold of, but we trust our cadets, and that just shows how much leadership that we give them and room to grow.
As I mentioned before, we'd like to have 2 color guards, but it's not just really at the home schools that we do. Like we'll have them at the Lincoln State Capitol, we'll have them at graduation ceremonies. We'll even have one Thursday during our Veterans Day assembly. So our drill team, marching is part of our curriculum. Every cadet has to do it, but our drill team is truly a competitive marching group that goes to several competitions throughout the year. I believe some are at Abraham High School and even go to Bellevue. These are truly our best marchers in the entire program. So our Raider team is a group that was created last year, but we already said that the PT, that's based on your own individual performance. What's unique about this program is that it's all based on complete teamwork. It's not just one guy's gonna go out there and do it all and then he's the best. That's not really how it works. Everybody truly has to pitch in and help each other, but it's not only just physical, it is mental as well. There's puzzles, it's running, it's really the whole thing.
All right, what questions do you have for our program?
Okay,
Yes?
Ms. Danny.
First, I want to say thank you for being here. I'm very proud of the junior ROTC at Lincoln Northeast, housed at Lincoln Northeast, and I'm proud that you get other students to come and join you there. I do have one question. What is a death march?
All right, so the Baton Death March is one of the events we have, and we march 14 miles to commemorate the Philippine veterans who were captured during World War II. And the Japanese made the march around 14 miles a day with a handful of water and a handful of rice. And so a lot of them died during the marches. So we basically walk or march 14 miles to commemorate them and their sacrifices.
Thank you for bringing that up. That reminds us all the sacrifices that were made to keep all of us free. When the junior ROTC started at Northeast, they had about 30 kids, 40 kids. You worked your way up to about 100, and you're back down to about 60, 65. and we kind of need 100 to be a viable program long-term. So if a student were interested in ROTC, how would they let you know?
All right, so if students are interested in ROTC, a lot of times they'll have to go to their counselors and they'll have to figure out their schedule, because to actually be in our program, you actually have to take the class. And so a lot of conflicting schedules, that might be a problem. And also, for cadets who come from other schools like Hunter, transport's an issue. So Hunter has to drive all the way from Southwest every single morning to get to our program. So it kind of dissuades kids from other schools from coming to our school. And so we mostly have to pull from Northeast cadets, and a lot of them see us in the halls and they sometimes talk to us, but it's more about their initiative and talking to their counselors about joining.
And what grade can they be members of the junior ROTC?
So you can join JROTC at any grade level, but like I mentioned, transport, if you come from another school, if you're a junior or a senior, you can most of the times drive yourself over like Hunter does, but juniors and sophomores a lot of time have to get their parents to drive them over or carpool with juniors and seniors.
And how's your breakdown between male, female? Is it about split?
It's a pretty even split, yeah. I don't know exactly how it evens out, but the classes are full of a bunch of different people, and it's really cool. You get a bunch of different people doing the same things, wearing the same uniform, and it's just like we're all a team.
What I can tell you is I've seen this program in action for several years, and it did change the culture and the way kids interact within the building at Northeast and at the events that you lead off the programming with the presentation of the colors. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for your program. You do provide leadership for a lot of kids that you may not even recognize.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for your questions. Anyone else?
Annie next, and Lanny.
First of all, congratulations on a very nice, clean, clear presentation. It was very well done. We learned a lot. My question is, I know a couple of you are seniors. I wasn't quite sure. Are you all seniors?
Yes.
How has this program impacted maybe some of your future plans? I mean, and yeah.
All right, so I think we can all answer this. So I'll answer first because I'm already up here. But I'm planning on joining the military. And so this program's really taught me a lot of things like marching, wearing the uniform precisely, and actually representing the military correctly. Because when cadets see you in the hall, they don't like, or random people on the street see you, they're not like, oh, he's in JROTC. They're like, he looks like he's in the military. And so because of that, you actually have to represent the military correctly. Because if you'll notice, our uniforms look very similar. So taking that responsibility and actually learning how to do things correctly has influenced me into kind of thinking of the military and hopefully joining soon. And so,
So ever since I was a kid, I've always had veterans in my family, but none that were too close, but I've always really wanted to go into the military. So I'm actually, to reiterate that any student can join at any grade. I joined last year despite being a senior, so yes, I'm only a second year, but honestly, this program made me want to join more. Not only has it made me more prepared, I actually like it, and yes, it is a lot of gas, and it's like a 30-minute drive every morning, but honestly, I've never wanted to commit to any other program in school than I have now. It also teaches us to be detail-oriented. We really have to look over our uniforms, be perfect, like our ribbons have to be situated a certain way, and if there's a loose thread, Senior Miller's gonna find it. It's pretty simple like that.
Definitely this program has put me on a pathway that I'm proud to be on. I moved to Lincoln my 10th grade year with no confidence, no leadership. I have immense amount of confidence, immense amount of leadership, where now I'm going to go join ROTC at Rice University in Texas. I'm super excited. I just feel like this program has put me on a pathway where I can see myself growing into a strong leader for not the country, but for myself and my family.
Thank you for sharing.
all right.
I don't have any questions, but a couple of comments I did want to share. Thank you so much for coming here and presenting tonight. One of the things that has impressed me about your program over the years, when I've attended your military ball, is that alumni of the program come back for the ball. And there aren't too many high school programs where you will see former students that have gone on to college or career or military that will come back to celebrate a high school program. And that's something that we saw with your program. So very encouraged that you reached that 100 student mark. COVID has affected a lot of programs. I have no doubt that when things return to normal, that your program's numbers will go back up again, because it's just such a phenomenal program. I would encourage any student in any LPS school that is interested in developing leadership skills and discipline and responsibility to take a look at your program. And again, thank you so much for being here tonight.
All right, is that all of the questions?
That is it. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
I'd like to thank all of you for your attention and time. So I hope the rest of your board meeting goes well, and have a great evening.
Thank you. All right, 6.2, the staff celebration for Nebraska Art Educator of the Year, Dr. Rauner.
Amy Aller-Helligan joining me. Did I get it right?
Pretty close.
Oh,
Close enough.
get me closer.
Aller-Halligan.
Aller. More of an O. Okay,
Yeah.
good, perfect. So I would like to frame this in the form of a motion. So whereas Amy Aller-Helligan was named the 2020 Nebraska Elementary Art Educator of the Year, and whereas Amy Aller-Helligan takes the time to know her students and form relationships outside her classrooms, and whereas Amy Aller-Helligan makes meaningful connections with the local art community, which informs both her teaching and her students' learning, and whereas Amy Aller-Helligan strives to engage her students in new and innovative ways, and whereas Amy Aller-Helligan works to create a non-threatening classroom environment in which all students feel comfortable participating in art, note therefore be it resolved that the Lincoln Board of Education does hereby congratulate Amy Aller-Helligan for being named the 2020 Nebraska Elementary Art Educator of the Year. Congratulations, and if you'd like to say something and recognize some other people here,
Yeah.
here's your time.
Thank you. I was telling my husband, I said, I feel really comfortable speaking in front of 6 to 11-year-olds, but, you know, adults is terrifying. So I do want to thank my husband, Craig, and my principal, Jeff Brem, for being here tonight. So, and thank you all for your recognition, okay? About 21 years ago, I came home and announced to Craig that I wanted to change careers. And I was a graphic designer before that, and I said, I want to change. I want to be an art teacher. And at that time, we had an infant son. He was not even 6 months old yet. And I was working full time. And you can imagine what kind of response I could have gotten. But instead, Craig said, you know, go for it. So I did. So I want to owe him a huge amount of thanks. And also for my sons, Caleb and Caden, and my family and friends, for their constant encouragement and support throughout all of these years. I do want to thank the current and former staff, students, and families of Calvert Elementary, which has been my home now for almost 18 years. And I could not be the teacher I am today without all of them. And finally, I would like to thank the administration of Lincoln Public Schools and the community of Lincoln for their continued support of the arts. I feel like I am truly blessed to work for a district and to live in a community that constantly advocates for and believes in the value of art education. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Boswell?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Laura, please call the roll to approve item 6.2.
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Boswell?
Yes.
Mrs. Danek?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Ms. Mungard?
Yes.
Dr. Rauner?
Yes.
Mrs. Duncan?
Yes. Very good, thank you. I didn't make him stand up, I was going to make him. As you walk out, we'll watch that he's standing up. Let's move on to item 6.3, the 2021 LPS Pandemic Plan and Procedures. Dr. Joel and Mr. Mayhew.
Thank you, Mrs. Duncan. We don't really have anything new to report as we received, the DHM was extended here a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Mayhew, if you have something great, if not, I think we're going to defer to Dr. Rauner, who's going to give us a COVID update.
No, I would just briefly say that the committee continues to meet and to keep an eye on any changes, for example, in the risk style or in mandates or that type of thing. At this point, we have nothing new to report to the full board. So I would just turn it over to Bob.
Okay, so unfortunately some bad news in that our numbers after dropping a bit are starting to head back up again. The challenge is that usually precedes a rise in hospital rates as well. Lincoln's rates, which they track by both people from in Lancaster County and without, are both kind of hovering there, and that looks, so we're worried those might start heading back up again. If you look in the left lower panel, that blue line is the positivity rate, and that usually precedes other things going up as well. So that gives us some concern. We're seeing the same thing across the state of Nebraska. Nebraska brought back its dashboard again. The hospitalization rates are above 400 again, and they're headed back up. So there's some concern there because of that. If we go down the road to Omaha, you'll see the same thing, that the rates are starting to head back up, and again, their hospitalizations. And one thing I want to point out is, although we haven't reached the peak we reached back in November, December, that peak went up fast and it went down fast. And it's easy, well, it's not easy, but our hospitals can respond to a crisis situation for a few weeks, but it's hard when it starts dragging on for months. And that's what we're having right now. That didn't hit the same peak, but it's persisting. If you look at the right panel, that's the total hospitalizations. The other problem is that because of the other delays, we have a backlog of other things that hospitals need to do. There are people who have had strokes, people who need heart bypasses, hysterectomies, knee replacements. And so that backlog combined with coronavirus is pushing our hospitals to capacity. I talked to a hospital ethicist yesterday in Omaha, and they were within one multi-car accident of hitting crisis standards of care. That means when we hit that point, there's no more beds left for new people. So please don't have a heart attack or a stroke or a car wreck in the next couple months, because we're getting close. If you look at who's actually in the hospital, Bryan Health shares this almost a daily basis. You can see that most of the people in the hospital are unvaccinated. There are some vaccinated, but mostly unvaccinated. And most of the vaccinated that are in the hospital, they're people who are elderly and have other high-risk conditions. However, if you look at who's actually in the ICU and on the ventilator, it's mostly the unvaccinated people. Okay. I talked to one of the critical care doctors yesterday. The people who are vaccinated in the hospital, most of them are the people who should get a booster but have not yet. They're mostly people eligible for a booster. It's been more than 6 months and they haven't gotten one yet. And so yes, they're vaccinated in the hospital, but it's because they need that third shot. So if you are older than 65, obese, or have a chronic medical condition, please get a booster shot as soon as possible, because we need to free up some of that capacity. As far as children, the numbers are out for November. As far as pediatric deaths, we're up to 576. Those are confirmed. There's also another 100 presumptive. And so tracking that next to last decade's worth of influenza deaths, you'll see that it is higher. Thankfully, it's not the 750,000 adults, but still 576 deaths in children is more than we would want. If you look at the side effects for vaccine, there's a lot to be made. Yes, there is a higher risk of myocarditis in young males. In this study, though, when you compare that, it was 8.62 per 100,000 compared to those who actually got coronavirus, it was 11.54. So even for that one specific side effect, it is lower with the vaccine than it is with actually getting coronavirus. The other thing people forget is, just like flu shots, the best way to protect grandma is to get her grandkids vaccinated. So one of the reasons we vaccinate children is that we're also protecting those around them. A common source of exposure is their grandparents. And so one of the ways to protect your grandparents is to vaccinate the grandchildren. And this is especially important with the holiday season coming up for Thanksgiving and Christmas. You want families to get together. This is a much safer thing if we can get some of those children vaccinated. The other thing is, I keep reminding people that public health is like layers of Swiss cheese. No layer is perfect. All of these have imperfections. Vaccines aren't perfect. Masks aren't perfect. Better ventilation isn't perfect. We need to add those to be effective. We have gotten rid of a lot of other infectious diseases from vaccines alone. However, those are mostly over the 85 to 90% range, and we're not there yet. And so because we're not there yet, vaccination by itself isn't enough. We need to be doing other things in the community, like masking in appropriate settings. How does LPS fit into a comprehensive community strategy? The thing that I think people have to realize, there's only so much Lincoln Public Schools can do by itself. It needs to be part of a community strategy. So if other people are not being careful out in the community, there's only so much we can do. And if you've been following our dashboard, where those numbers are updated every day, we peaked out around 1,500 student exclusions. We're still we're back up into the 500, 600, 700 range. Our rates reflect the community's rates, so there's only so much we can do about that. if you look at the CDC recommendations about when it's safe to take off masks, they actually use that yellow and bluish area. We're not there yet. We would like to be there in the next few weeks because we want the masks off the kids just like you do. So the best way for us to get, the other way that we can get there is getting the kids vaccinated. There were over 1,600 kids vaccinated at Lincoln High last Saturday. We've got Northeast High School coming up this Saturday, as well as I think Waverly and Norris later this week. So there will be more of those school-based vaccination centers. Those are in addition to pediatric offices, and Blue Stem and Health in Lincoln are also going to be offering vaccinations, as are many local pharmacies. And that's good because if you survey parents, where do they most trust to get vaccinated? It's their doctor's office, it's the local pharmacy, and it's a school. But we would ask the public to be patient. They can only ship vaccines so far, and the demand is now exceeding supply. So there will be some delays, but try to make your appointment. You can get online at the health department website, and the link is on the Lincoln Public Schools website. You can also call your pediatrician or Blue Stem or the local pharmacy like Hy-Vee, for example. And that's the update.
Thank you, Dr. Emmett. Anything else? All right, let's move on to public comment. Our next item is public comment. We will hear speakers for 1 hour and then move into our business meeting. The last public comment, we will hear the remainder of the speakers. Blue cards are available at the entrance for those wishing to speak. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes and may provide printed materials to the board. Please begin your remarks by introducing yourself, and we will inform you when 1 minute remains. Section 84-1412 of the Nebraska Open Meetings Law now requires that any member of the public desiring to provide public comment or to otherwise address the board shall identify themselves, including an address and the name of any organization represented by such person. The first speaker is Wayne Smith.
Just the microphone, you just speak in a normal voice.
Okay. Oh, good evening. My name is Wayne Smith. And I'm with the Nebraskans for Founders Values, and my address is on my blue card. Thanks for this opportunity. It is concerning to hear from upset LPS teachers about all the Black Lives Matter posters in the schools. One LPS teacher said, quote, "I have Black Lives Matter flyers, flags, and notices all over our schools," unquote. Last year, I received a photo of 13 Black Lives Matter posters on one LPS bulletin board. These included 4 stories of blacks being shot by police. Anyone reading these posters would think that police are running around looking for blacks to shoot. In 2020, there were 10 million arrests by police. Of those arrests, there were 1,004 officer-involved citizen fatalities, of which 41 were unarmed. Out of the 41 unarmed, 19 were white and 9 were black. Now, 1 death is 1 too many, but to me, 41 out of 10 million arrests is a pretty small percentage. It's 0.00041%. There were 92 police officers killed in the line of duty in 2020. Through October of this year, there were 112 police officers killed. My question is, are there any posters in LPS saying support your local police? And my email's on the bottom there, so I'd appreciate an answer to that question. The Black Lives Matter poster that is included in the handout was published by the LPS Department of Student Services. This poster is not a student service. It is a disservice and does not fit in with their mission statement. The Black Lives Matter organization was started in 2013 by 3 women, Patrice Cullors, Alicia Garza, and Opal Tomei. 2 of these ladies are self-avowed Marxists. Patrice Cullors said, and I quote, "We actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia are, in particular, are trained Marxists," unquote. Black Lives Matter. Does this suggest that other lives don't matter? All lives matter, including the unborn. What is the motive of LPS in putting these putting up these posters. In my opinion, these posters are as destructive as teaching critical race theory. These posters are divisive and propaganda. LPS does so many things right. Displaying Black Lives Matter posters is not one of them. Please remove all BLM materials because they are in violation of the Nebraska Americanism Statute, LB 399, passed into law in 2019. I've attached 2 proposed posters that I'll forward to the LPS Department of Student Services that hopefully will be sent out to teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Martin Lippard.
Give me a hand out. Very good. And you can just speak in your normal voice to the microphone.
All right, thank you. Martin Lippard, 1777 Dunraven Court. I'm going to speak about COVID again, obviously. So it should be apparent to anyone that mass vaccination and vaccine-only strategy using the current COVID-19 vaccines are a public policy failure. They are neither safe nor effective. With so many people vaccinated, our new infection numbers should be much different than before the campaign began. Well, they are not. These vaccines were meant to reduce the spread of the virus. They do not. The fact that we are still wearing these ridiculous masks is proof that in late spring, In late spring, the CDC learned that vaccinated people are still spreading the virus because their viral load was measured to be as high or higher than unvaccinated people. Now here in Lincoln, of the most recent 51 COVID deaths, 21 were vaccinated. With that kind of efficiency, we cannot stop this virus even if we vaccinate 100% of the people. Now, in addition, mass vaccination may also contribute to faster viral mutations. Previously, I told you the parable, remember the parable about the sticker game in school to illustrate that point? Furthermore, the potential for the very real antibody-dependent enhancement of these new vaccines has not been sufficiently studied. Both of those things could actually make the situation worse for all of us. So that would be negative efficiency. Concerning safety, we could argue for days if the number of deaths caused by the vaccines is in the tens of thousands or the hundreds of thousands because of the limitations of the biased reporting system. But what we know for sure is this, that the number of deaths is far greater than the deaths caused by some vaccination programs that were shut down in the past because of safety concerns. We're not doing it this time. Now here's some other safety signals. I went to the CDC website to look at the deaths from the end of April to beginning of October this year and found that an excess of 73,000 people have died over the expected amount of people that normally die. Not from COVID-19, but from other causes. That's a safety signal to me. Why did these people die? It started after we started this program. How about the many news media reports from Europe that extremely healthy soccer players just suddenly collapse on the pitch? These are healthy people. They just fall over and die of a heart attack. That sounds like a signal to me. How about the increased rates of heart problem and cancer patients in the US? That sounds like a signal to me. Now, recently I shared a video with you about a news conference regarding the vaccine injured. One of them, of the people speaking, was an orthopedic surgeon of 19 years who performed over 800 surgeries a year. His vaccine injury ended his career. It's not only devastating for him, but who will help all those thousands of patients of his? He reported his case, but nobody cared. Do you care? I do. Also testifying was the mother of Mehdi Daguerre, a 13-year-old who participated in the Pfizer trial. She's now in a wheelchair and has to use a feeding tube. Pfizer reported her condition as a stomach problem. How do you feel about that? What I wanted you to take away from this video was that the drug manufacturers and the FDA, CDA, they're actually lying to us. They're keeping important information from us to make these important policy decisions.
1 minute, please.
So when you now sit here and all excited about the vaccinating our 5 to 11-year-olds, I'm rather concerned. Now, countrywide, you want to vaccinate 28 million in that age group. Have you ever looked at how many they tested this stuff on? 1,500. Let's say this table here is about 28 inches tall. So that's 1 inch is about 1 million kids. This here is 2/1000ths of an inch. Can you see that? That represents the number of kids they tested. My hair right there. And this table is how many you want to give it to. Okay? How many kids actually died in this study? 0. How many had a severe case of COVID? 0. They had 19 cases of mild COVID. How the heck could you say anything about vaccine safety and efficiency with such a small group? Here's a quarter. You can see that, right? I suggest we give it to this many kids who volunteer to see what the safety and efficiency is before we give it to this many and experiment on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick, is it Pischel?
Hi, Nick, do you have any handouts tonight? You can just speak in your normal voice and we'll adjust the microphone to you.
Hi, my name is Nick Pischel. Address is on file. Good evening. I've lived in Lincoln nearly my entire life. Honestly, I've never given much of consideration to Lincoln Board of Education. I greatly respect the Lincoln Public Schools, so my assumption was the board has always been acting honorably in support of the public school system that serves children and families in Lincoln. I've been a lifelong supporter of LPS, and I received a public school education attending Zeeman, Pound, and Lincoln Southeast before getting my bachelor's and master's degrees from UNL. My entire life, I would struggle to find a public institution I regarded as highly as LPS. Sadly, now I would struggle to list a public institution I hold in lower esteem. The last couple of years have opened my eyes to my past naivete by observing your actions, agenda, and twisting a once great institution. Over the last 2 years especially, there have been a great number of moms coming to this podium to advocate for their kids and their education and to parent in the way that they feel is best. But there have not been a lot of men and a lot of dads. I felt I needed to do my part to change that. I hope more men follow me. Share a little story from my family this last week. This last Friday, approaching the lunch hour, my wife received a call that we had to go to pick up our daughter from school due to a potential COVID exposure on October 30th. As she left and went out the door, it hit me looking at my calendar that October 30th was a Saturday. How was my daughter exposed at school on a Saturday? I grabbed my coat and ran out the door to catch my wife to get clarification at the school. We entered the school, and the security checkpoint called the nurse's office to summon our daughter. I asked that if the nurse could also come down. I asked the nurse how her daughter could be exposed on a Saturday, and she corrected the date to the prior day of October 29th. She then went on to blame state of Nebraska for slow COVID testing results and that they did not obtain the test results of the contact in question until that morning, November 5th, of which once they did their contact tracing, they determined that our daughter needed to be removed from school immediately. Do you follow? This means our daughter had her contact on October 29th, was in school that whole day with classmates, returning to school the following Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and half of Friday. 6 days of contact with her classmates, all while fully masked. But on Friday, my healthy 7-year-old daughter is a super spreader and needs to be removed from the building the next day of school. Really? Could this action be more devoid of critical thought and rational thought? It's abundantly obvious to those with the ability of critical thought, by this point in time, any damage from my daughter being infected would have been done. She had been in contact with her classmates for 6 days and didn't have so much as a sniffle. Why was she removed? To check one of your boxes, that's why she was removed. What makes this worse is how this situation was handled. There was no care concerned for my child, her education, or the perception of these events. The nurse called my daughter's teacher, which my daughter's teacher is amazing, by the way, and instructed the teacher that my daughter needed to gather all of her things in the middle of the test that she was taking, leave, and come to the office. My 7-year-old daughter did this and walked to the office by herself. Upon arriving at the office, she was not told why she had to leave her class, why her test was interrupted, nor why she had to go home. When the nurse walked my child down to the vestibule, my daughter's lower lip was quivering, and her tears were welling up in her eyes that she was holding back. She was treated herself like she was the SARS-CoV-2 COVID-19 virus. She was abruptly evacuated from her classroom. Her teacher did not even know why she had to take all of her things and leave, nor was my daughter told why she had to leave. This was blind compliance for the sake of following protocols, all of which throw decency, reason, and rational thought out the window. Why are our kids being masked? If masks work, this quarantine shouldn't be required. If masks don't work, why are they being forced on our kids? Why are there cafeteria table dividers? If these dividers work, this quarantine shouldn't have been necessary. If the prison-like dividers don't work, which, by the way, they don't, why are they there? Side note, prisons don't even have these dividers. Schools look more institutional than our prisons do. Why are masks required? Why are these cafeteria barriers in place? I know why. For the creation of optics and control. The exposure in question happened a week ago, a week. So our daughter was okay to be in school for 6 days, but on the 7th she was a danger to her classmates? This is the definition of safety theater, something done for the sake of doing it with no efficacy. Our daughter hates school, the schools that you've created. She hates it. She's struggling in certain subjects, and opposed to being in school and receiving additional instruction, she gets sent home because of theater. A struggling student needs to be in school, not expelled from nonsense theater. Your protocols are not in place to protect children. Children are at such low statistical danger to this virus. Your protocols are in place to ease your conscience should isolated
Please
incidents,
complete your thoughts.
severe reaction. You're pushing kids away from LPS. Either you don't know or you don't care.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Stephanie Remus.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Stephanie Remus, and my address is on file. I've been here many times before, and I'll be here many more times to come. I always appreciate the public comment time. I want to start out tonight reading an excerpt from a movie I recently watched. Here it is. Maybe to understand how precious freedom is, you have to lose it. You figured you'd run out the clock on how we debated how women wore their hair 2,000 years ago, all in hopes that no one would realize it's really their freedoms that are on the line. The issue here today is about turning neighbor against neighbor. That's part of the plan, isn't it? Keep us all divided so that bit by bit, we don't realize you're chipping away at our freedoms and liberties. You've got everyone talking about how Noah got animals on the ark. Meanwhile, you're busy crafting legislation that will allow the government to barge into our homes. Because it's all about power for you. And the only way you can get more power is by taking it from someone else. And that would be well and good, except for that one pesky thing called the Constitution, and it keeps getting in the way. We are done talking to you. We are talking to the people who elected you, and as inconvenient as that is where your power comes from. You see the statues and monuments around this city, they say you work for us. This country is a government for the people and by the people. Stay out of schools and churches and stay out of kids' education, because what you call teaching, Mr. Chairman, is really social engineering. History is being rewritten, biology is being redefined, and right and wrong are being erased. Our children don't belong to the government, and neither does our country. America belongs to its citizens, to each and all, to the farmer in Texas, to the window cleaner in New York, to the cabinet maker in Maine, and to the school teacher in Oklahoma. It belongs to every man, woman, and child. It belongs to the people. We the people. That excerpt is from a recent movie that was released called God's Not Dead 3, where a local town is battling the government to keep homeschooling legal. While that's not currently a battle that we're facing, this speech was applicable to many battles that we're facing here in Lincoln, Nebraska. So many of us have come over the last year and a half asking, pleading you to listen to us, to please take our requests at least under consideration, to realize that certain decisions you are making are hurting children. But every time our request comes and it falls on deaf ears. For those of us who have studied nonverbal communication, it is very clear from the minute we walk to the microphone that you are shut down or tuned out to what we have to say. Technically, you have the right to choose to do that because you occupy that position. Instead of asking for something tonight, I actually wanted to thank you. Thank you for continuing to let pride and arrogance in your role drive you to make divisive policies. Thank you for making it very obvious that you have a liberal progressive agenda in mind. Thank you for disregarding rules on who and how many people can enter this taxpayer-funded building. Thank you for making it known that you have selected the same search committee to source a candidate to replace Dr. Joel that selected the deceitful and progressive superintendent of Loudoun County. You see, we the people are thankful because that constant pride and arrogance is because that's what's awakening the parents in this city and those around the country to what is going on in public schools. It's what's driven up homeschool numbers. It's also what's driven enrollment in private education here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And just as that did in Virginia, Minnesota, and New York last Tuesday, it is that belief that your agenda is unstoppable that will rally the people of this city to make sure in 2022 and beyond that those seats are filled with people who remember the people that elected them there, to remember that you are there to serve and help our children, not turn them into socialist, mindless soldiers. So again, thank you. We the people appreciate it.
Our next speaker is Amanda Ripley.
Good evening, Amanda. You can speak in your normal voice and the microphone will adjust to pick you up.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Amanda Ripley. My address is on file. I was unable to attend the last meeting 2 weeks ago. However, I did watch it online after the fact. I heard the students present about the new equity cadre. I have to commend the students. They were very well spoken and did a great job giving their presentation. They were very professional. While I don't agree with everything they had to say, I can still appreciate their thoughts. Words like positive and successful were included in their purposes. They want students to have positive and successful opportunities and experiences. These kids spent 10 minutes talking about how positivity is important, bringing about positive change and solutions, educating people, valuing different perspectives, empathetic views, encouraging dialogue, supportive environments, growing as kind human beings, educating through new perspectives, the importance of preventative measures. I was stunned that they are speaking out against people who have been labeled to spread hate, supposedly. One thing we never heard in the news about the event at Pius and Lincoln High was that it was American night for Pius at the football game. Those students who chose to have their patriotic spirit by wearing red, white, and blue and having a Trump flag. I was struck by Ms. Danick's statement at the end, praising them for working against bad actors. I found this whole situation to be ironic and hypocritical. Isn't labeling and making assumptions the very thing you are trying to prevent? As we've heard at the previous board meeting, we have kids who are being assaulted at school, not just having their feelings hurt or being triggered. While emotional needs need to be realized, physical assault is emotionally and physically damaging. Are kids' feelings justified in acting out against those they don't agree with because leadership has opinions reflected by calling conservatives bad actors? Just because others' opinions don't line up with your own, you're demonstrating that name-calling is okay. I'm concerned as we're headed into a search for a new superintendent. Community input is supposed to be valued. If you consider the conservatives who had a Trump flag and were minding their own business bad actors, how can we have any confidence that our opinions will be heard in the search for a new superintendent? I'm further concerned as I read the HYA statement to say strongly recruits to minority populations. I'm fine with equality and equal rights and equal opportunity. But just because someone is a different race or gender or sex than I am, does not mean that they are more qualified to be the future superintendent. Just glancing through HYA's proposal, it says, HYA walks the talk of equity. The HYA commitment. HYA commits to identifying, supporting, and placing school and district leaders of color and gender who have long been historically underrepresented in these posts. Each candidate we slate, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, or sexual preference, must have recent, relevant, and demonstrated experience in successfully addressing opportunity gaps, leading with an equity lens, and advancing equity initiatives. These statements make me question if Dr. Joel would have been considered a qualified candidate had they been in charge of the search back when Dr. Joel was hired. I'm all for equity as you're searching for the new superintendent. I'm for equality, not equity.
1 minute, please.
I think we need to consider everybody's opinions, and I hope you will take that into consideration. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Esther Oberney.
Oh, that's okay. They will make copies. There's no problem. And you just speak in your normal voice and we'll adjust the microphone.
Okay, thank you. Hello, I'm Esther Obarney, and my home address is 4210 North 71st, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68507. And I come tonight, I appreciate all the work that you do for the students at LPS. So I'm coming to you tonight to ask that you go back to your selection process and choose a more reputable and reliable firm for the new superintendent, one that has helped the Midwest School District like ours find a candidate with excellent character and the kind of values that reflect the people they're hired to lead. And also, critical race theory should not be a curriculum in the education for our students. Our God and designer has designed each one of us with the skin tone that he has for a talent to exceed in. Encouraging each other for achievement will let children be successful in their own skin. And also, the comprehension sexual education curriculum is extremely upsetting. So I am glad that it's been shelved, but it needs to be extinguished out of the world. The creator, the designer, and the Father has designed each one of us already for success. There is no need to change what is perfectly made. Teaching the children their body belongs to them, and saying no to wrong touches empowers them to care for themselves and healthy boundaries. CSE is pre-porn and addictive sexual minds, and the people that wrote this should be charged for giving their fantasy life to children, which is sickening, and I cannot believe it's gone this far. You can be encouraged or a violator in a person's life. The darkness always comes to light to be taken out or extinguished. 2 books that I brought tonight to recommend is, and I used them in my child care, is Your Body Belongs to You, and also God Made All of Me. And I got that written in the notes. I cannot wonder if I could have been able to learn to read. If I would have learned, I could say no to wrong touches in an early childhood class. My mind was always on who is going to touch me next, but I did learn to read at 34, and I do not want children to go through this. This CSE in schools where it is supposed to be a safe place of their day. I hope and pray you understand how precious the children are. I love LPS.
It's the curriculum that is inappropriate. The CSE and the CRT that needs to go from the world's schools. Thank you for serving on Lincoln, on LPS board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, do you want this one?
Our next speaker is Brenda McGill.
Thank you so much. Good evening. If you just speak in your normal voice, or just the microphone to match it.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Brenda, and my address is on the blue card. I'm coming to speak in regards to the sex ed curriculum, as well as extending to the books found in the school libraries that parents would not be approving of. The parents at home often cannot come to this party, to this meeting, because they are at home caring for their children, which sometimes looks like a party. And it's full-time to care for our children, and we trust the people here to do what it takes to ensure that our children are safe in the schools and are learning things that they should and being prepared well for their future. And that trust has been betrayed. The children are watching. They're paying attention. As they get older, they will pay attention more and reflect back. And I know the choices they will make when they are older, choosing the education for their children. And it won't be public school. You know there's consequences for the choices we make. That's what we teach our children. There will be consequences in the future. The enrollment in public school will not be what you expect because of what's happening now and what's been going on. There will be consequences. I'd like to speak about guilty by association. When something evil comes across your path, something wrong, something illegal, something harmful happens around you and near you, you must separate yourself. You must pull away. You must protest. You must act, intervene, protect. You must do what it takes. Because if you don't, you are going along with it. You are part of the problem. This is a complex issue to say someone is presumed guilty by association. I understand it is complex. However, I must point out that when you have constructive possession, dominion, and control, which you do concerning the school board and what goes on at the public schools, and something as perverse as this comprehensive sex education comes along your path, the very moment it does, the very first day, the first week, you take it in, you see what it is, you see what you're expecting of the teachers, it's clear what needs to be done. And to not act, that's inexcusable, absolutely inexcusable. A quote I found that I believe was given by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. goes as this: "He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it." Now think hard about that concerning what is in the content of this comprehensive sex curriculum. And what example are you giving to our children? I understand many people are afraid of confrontation and of challenging authority. I have no such fear, but I do understand this is a slippery slope. I want to point out how easy it is once to let something slide and go along instead of speak up. But then you slide more and other things come up and, well, I let it go then, I can't speak up now. You understand this is a slippery slope. And the children are watching where we stand. Are we on that slippery slope? How low will it go? It goes to a low, dark place to fall down that slippery slope. As for me, I will stand on solid ground. Thank you.
Just a reminder, if you have spoken already, we do ask that you leave the room so we can bring in more speakers. So if you have spoken, I ask that you leave. Our next speaker is Todd Hipsag.
Do you have any handout? Oh, just let you know that the microphone will pick up your voice, so it'll adjust it to naturally or no, and then no visual displays. Okay, thanks.
Hi, Todd Hipsag, 6311 Benjamin Place. Just an example of a book that's it's available for the K through 12 at Prescott Elementary. Transgender is a long word, but it means something simple. Trans means going across. Gender means being a boy or girl, or a little of both, or not feeling like a boy or girl. When a baby is born, a grown-up says, it's a boy or it's a girl. If a brand new baby could talk, sometimes that baby might say, no, I'm not. When a baby grows up to be transgender, it means that the grown-up who said they were a boy or a girl made a mistake. There's only two genders. If you're born with a penis, you're a boy. A vagina, you're a girl. And this book just undermines parents when they're telling their kids what it is. And I was just thinking, sitting back there with wearing a mask, we wouldn't need to wear them if everybody had to play food for them. They make no sense.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michelle Ewell.
Michelle, do you have any handouts?
No.
Okay. You can speak in your normal voice and the microphone will be adjusted.
Okay, thank you. Michelle Yeel, my address is on file. I have 4 children, and they have all attended SCO Middle School. This year, my youngest child, Miley, is in the 8th grade at SCO. The 8th grade class has a group of students that are known to harass and physically assault students. My daughter took the initiative to ask a former friend to stop the bullying. Since then, my daughter has been receiving both threatening text messages and threatening voice messages. I turned over the threats to a SCO staff member with the understanding that my daughter's name would not be used. Suddenly, over the weekend, the threats became so much worse. I wrote a letter to all 4 admin at SCO and also Russ Ewing addressing my concerns. Ryan Escamilla, principal of SCO, replied to my email stating, my findings show that Miley initiated the conversation. He goes on to say, there are no indications that there were threats being directly made to Miley while she was going to be in the school building. This is not considered a school matter. He also mentions that he had discussed with the student about making threats to Miley. This painted a much bigger target on my daughter's back, but did nothing to stop the harassment. It only made it very much worse. I find it ridiculous that we were dismissed so quickly because the threats did not state exactly what the principal deems as a school threat. We do not live near these students, and their only access to my daughter was at school. Not once did the principal ask to have a conversation with me over this matter. I deserved at least some respect as not only a staff member, but a parent. I handed over evidence and tried to initiate conversation via email. I feel like I wasn't taken seriously, and that is incredibly unprofessional. I have made the decision to pull my child out of SCO Middle School because I can't take any chances with her health. Miley's been sick the majority of her life. One of the threats she received explained that they don't care that she gets seizures. They aim for the head because that is where it hurts the most. My daughter and her friend are continuously referred to as white A trash or white B words. I have a unique perspective when it comes to this issue. I'm a former staff member at SCO as of 8:15 this morning. I worked at SCO for 6 years and have worked under 3 principals. I can tell you that this year, the school is unrecognizable. I have seen extreme bullying and physical altercations firsthand. I have been chased by this group of students while I was escorting a student that was receiving threats to her lunch. In no way should a child ever be afraid to go to their place of learning. I risked a lot fighting for my child, and my daughter lost the ability to go to school with her friends because the bullies continue to run the building. We have been punished because there is a lack of leadership and respect at SCO Middle School. I beg of you to please look into this situation and help our children to go to school in a safe environment. My daughter had the courage to stand up for herself and her friend, even though it resulted in no backup from her principal and no change. Do you guys have the courage? Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Alicia Curtis.
Do you have any handouts?
No, sir.
Okay, you can speak in your normal voice and I'll adjust the microphone to match.
Thank you. My name is Alicia Curtis. I was here 2 weeks ago to speak about I'm sorry, I'm really worked up about that. I was here to speak about the bullying that was happening to my daughter at SCO. My daughter happens to be the friend of her daughter that was the start of this situation. Recently, I had a mediation meeting with the school principal, Escamilla, and Russ Ewing, a representative of the district. They just simply sat there and listened while my ex-husband and I made recommendations to try to fix the situation and help the school, SCO Middle School, to become safe for not just my daughter, Meredith, but her daughter, Miley, who, God bless her, stood up for my daughter. They have told me, those students have messaged me and my daughter as well, voice messages and snap messages, stating that if you are a friend of Meredith, you will have your A beat. We will jump you. These messages have been relayed to the district, to the school, to the admin, with nothing but trying to blow smoke in my parts. I looked at your most recent anti-bullying policy. It was recently, or most recently, revised in May 25th of 2010. This policy is basically nothing. It has not been revised since then, and things have progressively gotten worse over the last 11 years. I fell under Lincoln Public Schools, Dr. SCO, and which really upsets me to this fact, because now my daughter attends this school, a school that he had great pride in being named after. He had hoped for great things to come from SCO Middle School, but yet I stand here before all of you a second time asking for safety for my child and the student body, and nothing will happen. I feel this strong. I have rallied friends to help me come to you and ask for some type of fix. I ask of you to please install security cameras in that school. I have been told that if my daughter, everything needs to be documented. And if they can't prove that my daughter is not the instigator in this situation, then they cannot help me. We've signed some non-aggressive, non-confrontational agreement at that school. My daughter and 20 other students, of which I told you last meeting. So these students have learned that if one gets past that first referral, then the next ones start on my daughter. So then nothing happens because they've learned how to work, Mr. Escamilla. Mr. Escamilla states that over the last 3 months, he's been learning how he can try to fix the school and things he can do to keep these children, the bullies, out of the hallways during class time. They are not present in class. They are roaming the hallways, as many can attest, but they're too afraid to come to you because they are Lincoln Public School teachers, paras, student teachers. They belong to you. They cannot
1 minute, please.
speak their mind for repercussion. So I am here asking for you to watch our children. I was told during my mediation, which I probably shouldn't be bringing up, but you are the only ones that can make security cameras happen in a school. You have 90 to 100 in the high schools, each individual high school, but yet the worst time of a child's life is middle school. Dr. Joel, you took over. Actually, you followed somebody who had great hopes for Lincoln Public Schools. I loved being a Lincoln Public student under Mr. Sco. But yet, I'm ashamed to say my children are going to his school. And you should be as well. I am disappointed in the fact that I really feel nothing is going to happen in this situation. Please respect my choices and consider my request.
Our next speaker is Gina Frank.
You can just speak in a normal voice, and I'll adjust the microphone to match.
Thank you. I am just here to express support for the school board. I appreciate the mask mandate. I appreciate the health education that the kids get. I appreciate the remote learning program that has been fantastic. Although my basement is a lot bigger of a mess now because my first grader is home all the time. There's paper everywhere. I don't think that can be fixed by you guys though. But I just wanted to thank you guys for everything that you're doing and ask that you keep the masks while spread is still rampant and while kids are still not vaccinated because they don't have the protection that adults have. And it's not really fair for them to not be able to go to school if they need to. If they don't have a parent who can work from home, they need to be safe at school. And listening to the parents, the middle schoolers, really hope that gets taken care of because that sounds pretty terrible. I used to substitute in the middle schools and I never substituted at SCO, but middle schools are difficult places. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jane Kinsey.
How are you this evening? You can just speak in your normal voice, and the microphone will pick it up.
The board has chosen to hire a company to search for a new superintendent that has an employee of the present superintendent, Steve Joel. This is not the way an open and honest choice should be made for a new superintendent. Bids and a background investigation should be done. The present plan is not in the best interest of taxpayers who elected you to your offices. A Board of Education should be beholden to the taxpayers, not colluding with the administration. The present process is just a repetition of a good old boy system that does not serve the taxpayers in the United States or in Lincoln. It is a type of corruption. Furthermore, this board does not seem to believe that it should take a stand about the educational issues of today. We are distressed to learn that Black Lives Matter posters are on display in LPS. Do you realize what this organization stands for? Not only does it want to destroy the government that we have with a Marxist one, but it wants to destroy the family, which is the basis of any society, to destroy our economy and the freedom to speak our minds. In many respects, the board is allowing propaganda to overthrow our government. Children are impressionable, and what they see in school has a great deal of effect on them. It is probably the second most effective after the family. They believe that LPS condones anarchy of all types when they see this kind of propaganda. It is time for you, the Board of Education of Lincoln, Nebraska, to stand up for order and back the majority of the people in Lincoln who want to preserve our way of life and our country. There are other issues that you have not stood up for. The State Department health issues, not a word was spoken by this board. To stand up for the right is important. To be silent means that one agrees. That's an old adage from way back. So the watchdogs of Lincoln government say that this board should lead or get out of the way and let people be elected to your positions who will stand up for society, preserve it, and stand up for the rights of the people, and not try to allow pernicious influences come into our school system.
Just a correction, Ms. Kinsey, we did not hire the search firm that Dr. Joel is employed by. You have the wrong firm. Liz Davids, you are next, please.
Just speak in your own voice and the microphone will pick it up.
No, I don't. It's very low today. I think it's interesting that you're recording us from behind today. That feels very dehumanizing. Good evening. I want to bring to mind sweet Lexi Barrett, the LPS student who came to this board a month ago and asked you to enrich the sex ed program in this district because she said that teaching students more frequently and at length about consent would prevent girls like her from being assaulted. I don't know if you reached out to her, but a group of us moms in attendance stuck around after the meeting to have a wonderful conversation with her, offering encouragement for her own healing and discussing the tender topic of what will actually prevent sexual assaults on LPS students. In the end, we all agreed that those who commit violence lack character, not information. So we encourage LPS to emphasize and promote honorable character qualities to their students, such as respect for themselves and others, self-control from activities that harm themselves or others, and wisdom in recognizing the dignity of every person. Speaking of struggling LPS students and how best to help them, I'd like to point to the new Educator Spotlight last week, in which Hope Power, who now teaches at the Bryan Community Focus Program, said that as a transgender teacher, they are able to help others figure out aspects of their identities. I didn't know that LPS had instituted a new policy wherein all staff members are encouraged to share freely with their students from their personal life experiences and belief systems about what has helped them figure their life out. Because that's what this teacher is saying. They are saying that when there are struggling students under their authority, they are going to proudly live out their belief system through actions and words. But that's not what LPS has allowed across the board to this point. Staff members with different belief systems, moderate, conservative, religious belief systems, know very well that their deeply held personal beliefs that have helped them figure out aspects of their identities must be kept silent on school grounds. Otherwise, they will be penalized and even terminated. So why does this teacher feel the freedom to express that they intend to counsel students according to their personal belief system? Because as much as Dr. Joel laments the characterization of LPS as political, we all know where LPS stands politically. Staff members with moderate conservative and religious belief systems are discriminated against. It's as simple as that. LPS is loud and proud about certain belief systems at the expense of others. Avowed Marxist organization posters are welcome at schools for all ages for years on end, but a single flag with the name of our country's president on it at a single football game is enough to warrant name calling from an LPS board member and the creation of an entirely new group under the name of cadre, which means, and I quote, a tightly knit group of zealots who are active in advancing the interests of a revolutionary party. I'm guessing they looked up the definition of cadre before they chose that word because it seems to fit the mindset perfectly.
This is why parents are expressing concern about the HYA hiring firm you have selected to bring you qualified candidates with a focus on equity lens. This LPS board already has a pattern of making decisions and taking stances that favor certain groups over others. So the idea that this firm highlights Loudoun County and Portland on their list of accomplishments is even more of a red flag to us. Loudoun County, Virginia, which is a dumpster fire metaphorically because of the outrageous politicization of their school board, and Portland, Oregon, which was literally on fire last year because of the belief system of a minority of its residents. These are the school districts that they are proud of finding candidates for. Mr. Mayhew, I'm grateful that you took a considerable amount of time to seek to clear up some of these concerns on Facebook. I really am. It's commendable of you to want to make sure that the public understands the process, which most of us had probably never thought of before and have no idea how it works. And we appreciate knowing that the right perspective is essentially, don't worry about the kinds of decisions the superintendents are making in Portland and Loudoun County, because the LPS school board is responsible for choosing the best qualified candidate from those that the HYA firm will bring you. To which I say that the citizens of Lincoln, Nebraska will definitely hold you accountable for the decisions you have made and continue to make for our children. And based on the direction you've pursued in the past, we can anticipate that reasonable parents will be looking to alternative education choices, like local parents did with the 900 students who didn't return to LPS this school year. You have considerable competition from our local private schools, which are expanding their capacity and adding new schools to their numbers each year, not to mention online and in-person options for families who choose to educate their own children. LPS needs to be the most inclusive, most welcoming, most anti-discriminatory it's ever been if it wants to keep moderate, conservative, and religious parents sending their children through your doors. I guess we'll see if that is what you want, or if you'll continue to choose to discriminate against Nebraska nice values. For the good of our entire community, make our schools politically neutral and respectful of all sincerely held belief systems so we can truly welcome all our entire community into the schools that they pay for.
We have time for one more speaker for this hour. It will be Julie Sheldon.
My name is Julie Sheldon. You have my address on file. This afternoon when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about, it was really hard for me. I feel like there's just so many things going on with this school district that concern me. I was one of the people that was involved in the Facebook conversation with Mr. Mayhew over the weekend about the selection of HYA as the search firm for the superintendent. And I pointed out that I don't feel that HYA was the right choice. They don't have, at least from the research I did, they don't seem to have a lot of experience with choosing superintendents for Midwest areas. And I know that I was corrected and told that there was a few, they had done some and they listed a few. To me, that's obviously not enough. And on the list of the ones they mentioned, like she said, Loudoun County, Portland, but a lot of big cities, Atlanta, Denver, places that don't have the same values set that I would say that we do here in Nebraska. To me, Nebraska values are, we're rural and we're city people. And I think that's a unique blend. I think we need both and we value both. I think the state is still conservative. We still believe in family, faith, all those old-fashioned values. I would not call us progressive. However, I was informed that there's a difference between Nebraska values and now there's something called Lincoln values. I was a little surprised by that because I would think that Nebraska values would be the same as Lincoln values, especially since we're the capital city, but apparently I'm wrong. Lincoln values are more progressive. And to be honest, I was quite appalled by that statement of, well, we're gonna hire somebody, what about Lincoln values? I've lived in Lincoln my entire life, and I don't identify with all this progressive stuff. And when I looked at HYA's proposal and saw that they boast about looking through an equity lens and that they thought that they would be a good fit for LPS because that the focus would be on equity. In my opinion, it's reprehensible that you would put the emphasis on someone's race, gender, sexual preference, all of that stuff. I mean, I just can't believe where we've come in this city. I mean, I'm almost speechless. Sometimes I want to cry when I read all this stuff. It can't be real. It can't be happening here. I have two half-black children, and my grandson is a quarter black. And the way that this city is going, it's just, I'm scared for them. And I never thought about leaving Lincoln. I've been a Lincolnite my entire life, and now I sometimes just want to run. I want to take my grandson out of LPS, but he's a special education student. He has autism. So, you know, there would be an extra challenge for him at a private school or a homeschool situation. But to be honest, I can't imagine him being indoctrinated with this stuff. The last two meetings I've been talking about that book called Not My Idea, a book about whiteness. That book was selected from a list that was approved by LPS staff members and put on this multicultural list. And it was ordered by several librarians in the school system. This book is
1 minute, please.
Anti-police, obviously anti-white. I don't know what you guys define as what whiteness is and what white supremacy is, but I can tell you that white people come from all over the world, all over the country, and to put us into a box and to blame us for the downfall and what's going on in this country is just, it's shameful. And I expect more from Lincoln Public Schools, to be quite honest. I've had staff members here in situations where I have felt not welcome because I'm conservative. I've had state board members, I've had state legislatures refer to me and some of my fellow people that are against some of this stuff as Christian fundamentalists. You guys talk about inclusion and wanting all views, but yet the Christian view is not being heard. You're shoving all this stuff down our throats. It's just wrong.
Thank you. That concludes our first hour of public comment. We will go on with our business meeting. Our next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion for approval of the consent agenda? Ms. Byer?
I so move.
Is there a second? Mr. Boswell?
Second.
Are there any questions, comments, or conflict statements? Just me. Out of an abundance of caution, I hereby declare a potential conflict of interest and hereby abstain from voting on check number 656114 as part of agenda item 8.2A, and as to agenda item 8.2B, payroll for ratification. As to any employee deductions for United Way and the agenda materials for this meeting, I vote in favor of all other consent items. Laura, would you please call the roll to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Boswell?
Yes.
Mrs. Danick?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Ms. Mumgarde?
Yes.
Dr. Rauner?
Yes.
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Mrs. Duncan?
Yes. For first reading tonight, 9.2.1, Series 2021 Bond Issue, Dr. Standish.
Yes, I'm joined by Scott Keene, who serves as financial advisor to the board, and we've recently worked with the Finance Committee to advance to a resolution for first reading tonight, and we hope with your consideration for approval at our next meeting. And as you know, we passed a successful bond issue in what year was that? 2020, and also in 2014. And that bond issue authorized us to issue up to $290 million worth of bonds. We successfully sold $195 million of those bonds in April of 2020. Scott Wieskank and his team was geared up and ready to get to work, which is a huge benefit to the school district that we're really grateful for, but we also needed the resources to pay for that work. And now we're at a point where we believe the timing is right to go to market with the remaining series. So that's $95 million that is remaining. So this resolution gives us authorization to do that. We hope with the approval at the next meeting We could be looking at a December timeframe, but this would also set a window where we could make the best decisions with your authorization for the school district. So I know Scott King came with just a bit of information to prepare as to why we're here now and what we're planning to do next.
Thank you, Liz. Again, Scott King with Piper Sandler. Thank you for having me tonight. Very quickly, as Liz mentioned, we feel like it's time to start the work on the second financing final authorization, mostly because we've started to see interest rates ticking up, and there's been much more discussion in the bond market, especially with regards to the risks of rates rising. Federal Reserve had originally indicated that they might not start the process of tapering their bond purchases. I think we've talked before about how the Federal Reserve is currently purchasing $110 billion a month of open market treasury securities to try to support the bond market and keep interest rates low. They are going to be cutting back that process by about $15 billion a month and will continue to taper over the coming months. They had originally indicated they wouldn't start doing that until 2022. They started in 2021. They indicated that they likely will start raising interest rates, the Fed funds rate, sometime in 2023, but the market is betting that that will happen in 2022. So a number of these things are accelerating the process. The biggest one being a lot of fear right now with regards to inflation. We've heard the term transitory, whether the inflation that we're experiencing right now is transitory or not. There are a lot of fears that it's going to be longer lasting than that, and that will kick in. So we feel like it's time to move forward. At the time we went through the bond election process, we were using a conservative estimate of interest rates for the bond issues of about 3.5%. As Liz mentioned, we issued $195 million in June of 2020 with a average rate of 2.4%, so well below that mark. We are conservatively estimating, very conservatively estimating, that the rate on this financing might be in the range of 2.85% to provide a blended rate of about 2.5%, so almost a full percent below the rate that we were discussing with the electorate at the time of the vote. So very favorable time, rates very low, but looks like they might be it looks like as though they might be rising, so it might be time for us to take advantage. One of the things that I would like to mention that we're doing potentially differently than in the past is we are looking at asking for a rating from just Standard & Poor's. In the past, the district has used two rating agencies, Moody's and Standard & Poor's. But we've seen a trend over the last couple of years towards issuers successfully selling their bonds with only a single rating. As a reminder, we have a AAA rating from Standard & Poor's on our outstanding bonds and a AA2 rating, 2 notches lower, from Moody's. And so we're looking to take this financing to market with just the Standard & Poor's rating. They've indicated, we've already shipped the documents to them, they've indicated they could have a rating to us the week of December 6th. So the very earliest we'd be going to market would be potentially December 13th, but depending on, as Liz has said, how much other issuance is coming to market that week, that's getting close to the holiday, we may end up pushing the sale into January. But we want to at least get you updated and to be prepared for 2 weeks from tonight.
Wonderful. Thank you, Scott. Any questions? Lanny?
2 questions, but first a comment. It's really pleasing to see that the rates that you're looking at now at 2.85 are below the 3.5 that we had planned back in 2020. Appreciate the way that you're conservative with the rates that we plan so that we don't wind up in a situation where we can't hit those targets. The 2 questions I have, the first, what term are you looking for this issuance?
We are looking, I'm forgetting exactly what our resolution says, but we are looking at a 25-year term, which is traditionally what the district has done with its new money financings.
Okay.
And the resolution sets a no later than date, which is 25 years out. So as we get closer to the sale, if something were to change, we would have some flexibility up to that no later than time frame.
Okay, so 25 years or less on that. And then you mentioned that this resolution doesn't require you to go in December or January. What is the window that you have?
Traditionally, we've had a 6-month window.
I want to say, my apologies.
Tough questions, Mr. Boswell.
Asking the tough questions. On or before June 1 of 2022. So
Okay.
we really have the first 5 months of 2022.
And that concludes my questions. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, very good. This item will come back to us at our next meeting. Thank you, Mr. Skeen. We will move on to 9.2.2, the middle school classroom projection, number 10428. And that is Ms. Standish, Dr. Standish again. No, Kirk, of course. So sorry.
So this is, believe it or not, we implemented the class plan, and that started in middle schools back in the 2014-15 school year. We started actually with our title schools, where we implemented large format displays. And then at the rest of the schools, we put in short throw projectors. Those have now reached their life cycle, which was 7 years, so it's in the plan that this is when we would do it. We would suggest, or have suggested, proposed, short throw projectors throughout, and that represents a bit of a shift for the Class 1 school, or for the title schools. And the reason for that is that they have a limited amount of marker board space, and it takes up some prime real estate to put that flat panel display on the board. Over the top of the boards. One of the major selling points at that time when we considered that was that those flat panel displays don't require bulb replacements over their life cycle, whereas at that time the projectors did. An emerging or nascent sort of thing in the field was laser-based technology for short throw projectors. That has now come to a standard, and that does not require any kind of replacement over its life cycle. So given what we've learned over time, we would definitely suggest or recommend that we go with the short throw projectors, laser-based. As with many things these days that have any kind of semiconductor in them, which is, well, almost anything, we are seeing a very severe shortage and supply constraint on these. So if we are to get these ordered soon, we hope to take delivery in, well, maybe June or July. So that's how backed up it is. From a cost perspective, these fall in line with what we have, what's in the budget for them, so it doesn't extend beyond that. Working with Epson, who has been our provider in the past, their prices, while not escalating and to basically gouge, they are constrained by the supply chain. So with that in mind, I would recommend, if at all possible, that this be expedited to a single reading.
Very good. Is there any discussion? Mr. Boswell.
Yes, well, first I would move that we waive second reading, move this item to action, and pass item 9.2.2.
Ms. Danik?
I would second that motion.
And now, any further discussion? Very good. Seeing none, Laura, please call the roll on the motion to approve item 9.2.2.
Mrs. Danik?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Ms. Mumgarde?
Yes.
Dr. Rauner?
Yes.
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Boswell?
Yes.
Mrs. Duncan?
Yes. For second reading and recommended for action, 10.2.1, the Community Learning Center agreements. Is there a motion for approval? Ms. Danik?
I would move approval of the motion as presented in our agenda item.
Is there a second? Ms. Byer?
Yes, I second that.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Laura, please call the roll on the motion to approve item 10.2.1.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Ms. Mumgarde?
Yes.
Dr. Rauner?
Yes.
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Boswell?
Yes.
Mrs. Danik?
Yes.
Mrs. Duncan?
Yes. Also for second reading and recommended for action, item 10.2.2 through 10.2.5. Is there a motion for approval? Mr. Boswell?
Move approval of items 10.2.2 through 10.2.5.
Is there a second, Ms. Byer?
I second that.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Laura, please call the roll on the motion to approve item 10.2.2 through 10.2.5.
Ms. Mumgarde?
I vote yes for glue lamps. I have to put in a sentence.
Dr. Rauner?
Yes.
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Boswell?
Yes.
Mrs. Danik?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mrs. Duncan?
Yes. I do not have any emergency actions. I do not have anything removed from consent agenda. That brings us to informational items and reports. Are there any board committees wishing to report tonight? Mr. Boswell?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Duncan. I have a report from the Ad Hoc Committee for Redistricting, where I serve with Ms. Beyer and Mrs. Danik. Every 10 years after the federal census, the board works with the Lancaster County Election Commissioner to adjust our 7 sub-district boundaries to account for changes in school district boundaries and population. Last week, we met with the Election Commissioner to review a first draft map and the census counts for the current LPS board sub-districts. The goal is to have sub-districts with substantially equal population. With nearly 300,000 people living in the LPS school district, each sub-district should have roughly 42,500 people. Due to different areas of the city growing at different rates over the last decade, some of our current sub-districts have populations that vary substantially from that average population. For example, Sub-District 5 currently has over 50,000 people, which is around 8,000 people over the average population. Sub-District 2 has just under 39,000 people, which is 3,500 people under the average population. By reassigning precincts from one sub-district to another, the committee can rebalance the sub-districts. Our next step is to review draft maps that do that rebalancing in different ways. We plan to have recommendations ready for first reading at our next board meeting on November 23rd, with second reading and approval at our board meeting on December 14th. The statutory deadline for board approval of this work is the end of the calendar year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Roswell, for serving on this committee. That brings us back to you again. Is there a report from the Career Academy?
No report tonight.
All right, that brings us to the superintendent's update. Dr. Joel?
I think the only thing I'd like to comment on is the superintendent search firm, because I think there are some misconceptions that some people have. Hazard, Young, and Atia is a very reputable national firm. They've conducted searches all over the country. And the notion that they would have any influence on who's going to be selected is misguided. Search firms are responsible for helping the board and stakeholders, internal and external stakeholders, develop the profile that it's going to use then to advertise the position, solicit applications. At the end of the day, the Board of Education makes the ultimate decision. Now, depending upon how they frame the search, voices will be captured on the front end and may very well be included during the actual interview process. But regardless, the decision to select the next superintendent rests solely in Nebraska with the Board of Education. And so I just wanted, I know the board knows that. I want the community to know that as well. There are about 5 nationally, I think, well-known firms. You received proposals from all of them, and you narrowed it down, and honestly, you made a very, very good selection, and I think you're going to get great service. And I think the community of Lincoln is going to appreciate how the reach out is going to occur with the various stakeholder groups. So lots of voices will be collected, and it's going to be their responsibility then to discern those voices and to something that's cohesive. So my anticipation is, if this search goes like searches that I've been involved in and been a part of, ultimately you'll have high quality candidates that will represent the criteria, and then you'll have your ability to make that selection and an opportunity to hear the voices. So I just wanted to get that cleared up, because I as well have gotten a number of emails from people that are accusing me of hiring the search firm, and that's not the truth. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you. Dr. Rauner?
You know, parents are often involved with this. Last time, actually, Lanny and I met because we were on the parent committee, not in the school board. That was some of our first formal involvement in LPS. We literally interviewed Steve Joel. Part of that, yeah. Hopefully we weren't too hard on you, but so yes, it's a community process. It's not done at Little League. It's done in public. Other people are part of it. It's, to my knowledge, always been that way, or been for quite a long time. So.
Thank you. Very good. That brings us to the announcements of upcoming events for the board. November 16th, the State Legislative Breakfast, 8 a.m. at the Country Club. The LIBA Lunch, 11:30 a.m. at the Jasmine Room. SSKI board meeting, 6:30 PM at the City Council Chambers, busy November 16th. November 17th through 19th, NASB State Education Conference in Omaha. And November 23rd, the board meeting at 6 o'clock PM back here at LPSDO. That brings us back to our second public comment. And blue cards are available at the entrance for those wishing to speak. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes and may provide printed materials to the board. Please begin your remarks by introducing yourself, and we will inform you when 1 minute remains. Section 84-1412 of the Nebraska Open Meetings Law now requires that any member of the public desiring to provide public comment or to otherwise address the board shall identify themselves, including an address and the name of any organization represented by such person. The first speaker is Stephanie Johnson.
Hello, you can just speak in a normal voice and the microphone will be adjusted to match.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Stephanie Johnson. My address is on file, and I'm representing myself. I drove down kind of on spur of the moment. Basically, I don't know that it makes a big difference to come and testify, but I just feel like we're at a crux where there's just a lot of things going on in our community, in our state, and especially with our public school system, that it's like I just want to voice my opinion whether or not it makes a difference. At least I know I did. Thanks for addressing the issue with the agency that was selected. I realize you're a consultant or you are a part of a agency that does a similar process, or I don't know exactly that role. But irregardless, from your description, it sounds like the agency comes in and helps you all decipher what qualifications you want to use, what would be priority description. And then that's what you use to put out the advertisement to bring in a new superintendent. So the biggest thing, I guess, is just really recognizing, what we as a community are looking for in a superintendent. But it was just a big, oh my gosh, of all the agencies or of all the, agencies they could have selected, and it sounds like there are 5 really reputable ones. Of all of them, they were the ones that helped that board come up with the selection of the most famous, if not famous, superintendent in the country right now due to ethical behavior that was very questionable. Withholding information about a sexual assault in his district, in his school system. So it's just, I just would say, really take that into consideration, and what that appears, you just have to just look at it from our point of view as parents, as a community, is all I'm saying. Just look at it from that point of view. It's concerning. Because we still do, when we come into a space like this, we feel very much like a minority. Parents feel like maybe our views aren't in line with your views. But the problem that we have is that sometimes when you're just all in a bubble and you're only hearing your view and the views of like-minded people as yourselves, it's hard to feel like we're being heard when decisions are being made, and they're in complete disalignment with most of our community. And so just very concerning. I'm also really concerned about, I saw that there were vaccine clinics being set up at a couple of our schools, and I still have questions about aligning our school system with that process, because if you can answer these questions for me, do you know, there are no long-term studies. We know that the long-term studies are completed. The first one is in 2023. Does the vaccine cause autism? Does it cause a fertility issue with the child in growing years? Does it cause issues with growth? Does it cause learning impairments? Does it cause neurological issues? Does it cause cardiovascular issues? We know that it's causing myocarditis in boys, but we don't know because it's brand new. And so to align yourself with that, to align our system with something that we don't know the outcome for children, we just don't know. It's very, ethically, I can't see how that is in alignment with what you would want to be known for. Setting up vaccine clinics at our schools. I know it's on Saturdays, I know, but we all can kind of see what's coming. I just also have to say I was down tailgating this weekend and was having just the best time downtown. No one had a mask on. And I walk in and they said LPS basically has different rules. You have to wear a mask here. We don't abide, it's a different mandate. You can't do social distancing. You have to put the mask on. I think it's just so hypocritical that we can say on Saturday we can all be downtown without a mask with 100,000 people, and then we enforce the masks with our children on Monday. And there's no scientific data to support that at all. And if it were a true pandemic, then why would we be doing what we're doing on Saturdays and Sundays in Lincoln? It makes no sense. Anyway, thank you.
Ms. Danik, I wondered if you could clarify something for me. You are the facilitator of the search process. Could you let me know, where did Dr. Joel, where does he work on his spare time? What search firm?
On his personal time, he works for McPherson Jacobson, not for Hazard Young Atia.
And we hired?
Hazard Young Atia.
Thank you.
Ms. Duncan?
Yes.
We should also let the community know that there will be plenty of opportunity for public engagement, including town halls. The search firm did confirm that with us.
Thank you, Ms. Danik. Our next speaker is Amber Parker.
Hey, do you have any handouts?
No.
Okay. Just speak in a normal voice or adjust the microphone to your voice tone.
Okay.
And no visual displays.
All right, so the first question I have, and of course, we were given a list of public comments from you guys, so I think these can be shown. All I have to say is, what a Jewish man I recently heard say, this is not Nazi Germany. You are elected in the seats you were elected by the power of the people. I have seen officers at many meetings that I have been to. I myself ran for school board in a district. I myself was a DARE speaker. And this officer, I have to tell you, maybe it's the mask, maybe it's your eyes, but I feel like you're zeroing in on moms that are coming in here as the Gestapo to stop them because they're intervening in stopping a Marxist agenda. Every single one of you on this board, you don't know me and I don't know you, but man, am I disappointed. And somebody talked about accomplice. Steve Joel, 2 words, purple penguins. Purple penguins. Everybody here in the Lincoln area, I want to make this clear. You have comprehensive sex education already here. Behavior programs, library, Belmont Elementary, Elliott Elementary, Cahoe Elementary, Norwood Park Elementary, Randolph Elementary. There are so many different ways to be a boy or a girl, too many to fit in a book. Non-binary is a helpful word that could describe a kid who doesn't feel exactly like a boy or a girl. You guys are Marxists. You're treating us like we are the Jews and you are the Nazis and you are going to take the children away, and it's a nanny state mentality. Well, this is the United States of America. I want to say welcome to the Loudoun School Board. My first question is, are you hiding sex assaults because you want to protect transgender bathroom policies? And Steve Joel, you are the superintendent. You, sir, can leave with a disgrace of a legacy of what you know you have been a part of and covering comprehensive sex education. Shame on you. If you don't change from your guys' ways, you will be known as racist and those who push pedophile grooming on the children in the Lincoln school boards. This is serious. Who do you think you are to give the tax-paying people? Now, I don't believe you guys get paid taxes. But you need to be rebuked. You are
close. If it was up to you, you would want to take everybody in here that came against your agenda in handcuffs. Mr. Rauner, look me in the eyes. Please, every single one of you, look me in the eyes. People gave you trust. And then Barbara, you're a bully. You guys have no mention nor standing to mention against bullying. You stand apathetic. You all should resign. Quite frankly, Steve Joel, you should have been fired. But you're so connected to this comprehensive sex education agenda and Planned Parenthood, Susie Buffett agenda, and the money. But you know what? Parents love their children. And no matter how ugly this fight gets, we will hold you accountable. We will investigate you. We will see the local powers we can, because it is time for you all to be impeached. And it is the time for the Lincolnites to rise up. And I say, do not give in to their bullying tendencies, their list of rules, acting like you're a child with a dunce cap sitting in the corner if your mask falls off. Shame is on you. Children are being abused by other students, and you are apathetic. And one of the schools fired a teacher, a para-educator today, who came up and spoke. You better believe this is going on social media. This is ridiculous. My heart is crying out. Please, change from your ways. Change from your ways. It's time. Your legacy, racism, filling kids, hurting them emotionally and mentally, is going to follow you unless you change of your ways. I am finished.
I do not have any other blue cards. I have a request from staff for a closed session for item number 3, litigation, and number 7, legal, and number 2, real estate. Mr. Mayhew.
I move that we go into closed session for number 2, real estate, number 3, litigation, and number 7, legal advice.
Is there a second? Ms. Byer.
I second that.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Laura, would you please call a roll on the motion to recess into closed session for items number 2, real estate, number 3, litigation, and number 7, legal advice?
Dr. Rauner,
Yes.
Ms. Mumgard,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew,
Yes.
Mrs. Danick,
Yes.
Mr. Boswell,
Yes.
Ms. Byer,
Yes.
Mrs. Duncan.
Yes. This meeting is in recess for closed session. Thank you all for attending. We are adjourned.